Hey friends, I'm Albert Myers, and this is The Creative Side, the show that explores and celebrates the talent of the DC, Maryland, and Virginia area. On today's show, we have artist Kelsey Joyce. Kelsey's artistic journey started in 2019 after she learned about the magic power of papier mache. Since then, she's been making papier mache creations in her own unique style. Here today to share a tutorial on how she makes her creations is Kelsey Joyce.
Hi, I'm Kelsey Joyce, and I'm going to teach you how to make an alebrije out of papier mache. First step, we're going to get out a piece of aluminum foil about the size of a baseball, and we're going to shape our torso. You're going to keep on ripping different sizes of aluminum foil until you get the torso shape you want. I'm thinking I want a reptilian body, so I know the hind legs are going to be wider. So I want to give my reptile some wider hips for my legs, and some slender shoulders. And once I have a torso I like, I'm going to start adding the arms and legs. I'm going to fold slender pieces of aluminum foil, and then I'm going to take my tape and add them to my torso. I'm going to repeat this step 3 times until I have all my arms and legs on. So this is when the creative part comes in. You have to decide what you're building. Alebrijes are usually a combination of animals. Do you want to make a lion donkey, a butterfly tiger? It's all up to you. I'm going to make my favorite, a dragon. Now that I have my body built up and I have all my muscles in place, I'm going to decide what elements I want to use in my alebrije. Traditionally, they use 4: fire, water, earth, and air. Water can be a tail, like if you want to make a mermaid. You could do fire with sharp teeth, maybe like a scorpion tail. Earth, some strong legs. And then air, we can put some wings for flying. I'm going to do a dragon and try to use all 4. So let's keep going and let's add our wings, our teeth, horns, and maybe a tail, whatever you want. Aluminum foil is one of the best materials to work with because it's so accessible, lightweight, and cheap. If you're working with clay, your sculpture is going to get really heavy. I like to hang my stuff on the walls, and you can't really do that with clay a lot of the time. It might break, and honestly, I don't have a kiln, so I can't fire it. Give you little hands. And to help change the size of my aluminum foil, all I'm doing is pinching really hard. So if you want it to be smaller and you want it to stay stronger together, we have to condense it, pinch it in between your fingers. There'll be a point where you can't pinch anymore, and that's when you want to stop. Don't get disheartened if your creature isn't turning out the way you want it to at first. Art is all about the process. You have to give this time and energy and patience, and you'll end up with something you're really going to love in the end. Our next step is we're going to cover the entire thing in tape. We want to make sure that we create an armature that is very structurally stable because we don't want to put all this hard work and creativity into something for it just to fall apart in the end. And once you've covered your entire aluminum foil armature and tape, we're going to add some wings. For this step, we're going to get out an old dry cleaning metal hanger, some pliers to cut it with, tape, and I want to give our creatures some fun eyeballs. First, let's just take the paper off of our metal hanger. Recycle that. And I'm gonna give my dragon about a 6-inch wingspan. So that's half a foot. Have a parent do this. And now I have my cheap, inexpensive wingspan. I'm gonna bend it a little bit. Line it up with my dragon. I want my wings to be a little bit shorter than that, so I'm gonna cut it again. Now that we have our metal rod in place, we're gonna get our aluminum foil out again, and we're gonna add and make really big, cool wings, whatever design you want. I think I'm gonna go with a cool curve, like 2 hills next to each other. And keep building up your wings with aluminum foil. Do your wings have veins in them? Can you see the bones? It's all up to you. Keep on going until you pinch and you don't feel any resistance. Never be afraid to make a mistake. If something isn't the way you want it, just rip it off and fix it. I make a million mistakes every single time I make a piece of work. Once we're done adding our features, we're gonna have to add some eyeballs. I like to use old eyeballs from stuffed animals, or you can just order them new from any website. Ah, yellow, my favorite color. Same idea, let's use our aluminum foil and tape and add our eyes. I want you to think about the creature you're creating. Does it have eye sockets? Are its eyes just floating? Maybe you're making a jellyfish. And when you're building your facial features, think about your creature. Are they happy? Are they threatening? It depends a lot on where you put the eyebrow ridges and their smile. So if you want them smiling, give them nice big cheeks, and a little bit of the cheek will cover their eyes. If they're angry, you're gonna give them a furrowed brow. And they're gonna look threatening, and they'll be able to protect your room from all your siblings. Once you've finished adding all your features, we're gonna have to get out some paper and some glue because we're gonna paper mache this. And now that we're ready to paper mache, we're gonna get a small bowl to put our Elmer's glue in. I have the off-brand stuff. Any white school glue is gonna work. I want you to pour around a cup. It also depends on how big your creature is. Mine, he's about the size of my hand, so I'm gonna only put a little bit in. And next you're gonna put a dash of water in, the smallest amount you can imagine. We don't wanna put too much water because then you're gonna put the smallest amount of water in with your glue. We don't want too much because then our glue isn't gonna be a bonding agent. Think about that little cup of medicine that you take when you have a sore throat or a cold. Imagine that much water and pour it in there. We want water to dilute our glue a little bit so our paper can soak up the glue. Your paper mache glue solution should feel soupy. It shouldn't be runny like water. It should have a thickness to it. So I want you to put your fingers in it, mix it around. We're mixing the water and the glue together, and it should run off your fingers, but it should stick too. Get some craft paper. If you have old newspaper, old magazines, that works too. Craft paper we use in schools, and it's a little bit thicker, so you don't have to use as many layers to make a strong sculpture. For our paper mache strips, we're gonna be ripping it because we want the pulp to be outside and create a strong bond. When you rip paper, it leaves all the little pulp strands out, and we're gonna dunk this in our paper mache mixture and let it soak up in our glue. I don't want too much glue on my strips, so I'm gonna put it in between my fingers and squeegee the glue onto both sides because I want this to get really sticky. I want the glue to stick to my armature, and I want to create a sticky surface for the next piece of paper mache I put down. There's multiple methods of paper mache. Elmer's glue is probably the most accessible and useful for our small sculptures, but if you want to build something big, you should use flour, like the flour you make pancakes or cupcakes with. It's really inexpensive. You can get like a 10-pound bag for $5 if you go to a wholesale store. I like to build a lot of really big creatures. I use flour, but with flour comes mildew and mold. So when you're building something with flour mache, you have to put a little bit of salt inside of your mixture. That way the salt can dry out the mixture quicker and mold is less likely to grow. Elmer's glue is definitely best for younger ages and beginner creators, and it's a lot easier to clean up. And once you've covered your entire sculpture in paper mache, we have to let it air dry, blow dry, or put in front of a fan. You want to make sure that you get the front, the back, every little crack. You can't really set the glue on fire. A normal hairdryer shouldn't go above 400 degrees. Sometimes there's really nice baked clays that you can put in the oven if you want to make an alebrije out of clay. But for our paper mache, it's probably going to take around 2 hours if we just leave it in front of a nice fan. If we're blow drying it, we constantly put air on it. We're going to have it dry in about 30 minutes. Make sure you're turning your alebrije, you're getting the back side, the front side, and you want to make sure any part of the body, like the wings that goes away from our condensed aluminum foil, we want to make sure there's enough paper mache on there and it's nice and dry before we paint it. Because we're putting wet paint on there, we want to make sure that our base is nice and structurally sturdy. And now that our paper mache is nice and dry, we are ready to paint. So I want you to get inspired. Go on the internet, find an artist you really like, choose a topic. I chose fruit, so I'm gonna make a watermelon dragon. And this is the fun part. Let's get creative, choose your favorite colors. I'm gonna make my watermelon dragon, so I'm getting my green and my red paint. And when your paint is neon, it's gonna be a little bit translucent. You're gonna need to put at least 3 or 4 layers on there. But a cheat is if you mix it with white paint first, do your first layer of that white and neon color, second neon alone, it'll pop up so much brighter. So I'm gonna put my light neon green down on my paper plate, my mixing plate. Put a little bit of white. Get out a nice big paintbrush because we want some full coverage. Mix these two together. And I'm painting my dragon with acrylic paint because acrylic paint is made out of plastic. So it helps my dragon be a little bit more water resistant. The dragons in no way are waterproof. You have to put more than just paint to make something waterproof. So these dragons are definitely gonna live indoors. And now that I've chosen my base color, I'm gonna cover the entire body that I want this color to be. So I'm covering my entire body with green for my watermelon dragon. If I want to come in with little details, I'm going to change out my paintbrush to a smaller paintbrush. But right now I'm just focusing on covering the entire body in nice lime green paint. And I'm gonna give this one a little break because I want to show you some of the finished alebrijes I brought with me. This one I named Skelly Fly. So when you're painting, I want you to add a lot of different details, patterns, and colors. In alebrijes, we're gonna use at least 3 colors and 3 different patterns. So I've done polka dots up on the horns. I gave him a little skeleton design for all over his body. I hope you had fun learning about this process. I have 2 examples here that I want to show you that I've created. So look at all these different patterns and colors. I want you to get inspired and go berserk with your creature. I have 2 examples from Mexico that I want to show you guys. These are authentic alebrijes. The alebrije is really cool because the artist always signs the stomach and where they created it, which is really important because we want to be able to give people credit for their work and tell them that we like it. The original creator of the alebrije's name is Pedro Linares Lopez. He got really ill and fell into a fever dream where he saw different hybrids of animals chasing him. And they were all screaming one thing, alebrije, alebrije, alebrije. When he woke up, he decided to start creating the creatures he saw in his fever dream. Now they've become amazing sculptures all throughout Mexico. There's even an alebrije parade every single year in Mexico City. I hope you had fun learning about Mexican folk art and how to make your own papier mache alebrije.
I'm so happy to have as my guest today local artist Kelsey Joyce. Kelsey, thanks for being on the show.
Absolute pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So, so Kelsey and I, we met by working on a promo for the Wheaton Arts Parade, which is currently going on right now until October 4th. And Kelsey, why don't you, as our introduction to you and your work, why don't you describe the piece that you did for the Wheaton Arts Parade?
What I did for the Wheaton Arts Parade is a beautiful giant pyramid surrounded by dragons. And it's not dragons in the typical sense. There are no wings involved. Basically giant colorful lizards climbing around a pyramid.
Very cool. Very cool. Yeah. And it's on display right outside of the Limerick pub and that new grill, I guess it's called a
Hakuna Matata.
Hakuna Matata. Yeah. So yeah. So Kelsey, I know that from talking to you before that art it sounds like a relatively new kind of professional experience for you. So like, give me a little bit of your background. Like, you said you've really only been doing art for about a year, but I'm sure that it goes back, farther than that. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we all picked up crayons in kindergarten. We were all working, making sandcastles at the beach. I probably started to take art seriously in high school, but I was into photography. I love taking pictures of everything. And then I found sculpture probably 2 years ago, started taking it very seriously a year ago. I was learning, traditional sculpture using clay, wood, metal, but I wanted something that was more malleable. I really wanted something lightweight because I like hanging things on my walls. I'd bring home art and my mom would say, there's too much stuff in here. We had all this stuff covering the floor, so I thought, okay, we need to start working on wall space. So I discovered papier mache and I just made until the entire room was filled up. And now I get to outsource my work and put in different shops' windows and hopefully galleries. I have some artworks on display at the Wheaton Arts Parade Gallery in Wheaton Mall, and more to come soon.
Very nice, very nice. And so it sounds like, so describe for the, we all have kind of worked in papier mache, like you mentioned, like with crayons as well. We all have that experience through school of kind of working with papier mache. Is it similar to that? How is it different,
So it's similar because I'm using Elmer's glue most of the time. So I'll get some old newspaper. If you run out of newspaper, craft paper is a really strong paper that you want to use for papier mache. And for giant lizards, I built this one lizard that was 16 feet. I used flour, like the flour you make pancakes and cupcakes with, just baking flour. And but you have to be careful with that because flour can grow mildew. Put a pinch of salt in there, help soak up the moisture, and then you're good to go. So I have, oh man, 16-foot lizard, 12-foot, 8-foot, all made out of flour and paper. And I would stuff them full of like old Target bags and anything I get my hands on. One of the deer that I built is actually an old Christmas decoration. So the armature is this metal Christmas deer, but I've completely papier mache'd it. And the thing about papier mache, you think you can't put outside, with a little bit of adjustments, you can waterproof it to the best of your abilities and make it water resistant. So I have a lot of creatures that live outside now thanks to that.
Very nice. And so you've mentioned a couple of the subject matter of some of the work that you've done already. Lizards, the dragons, the deer, that sort of thing. It sounds like animals are definitely a big inspiration for you. Why? Like, why do you think that is? Like, what's the reason for that?
I think it really comes back to just man's best friend. I think animals are our best friends. And when I imagine like a creature I want beside me, I just see like a cute little dragon or some mystical creature. Like I want a little unicorn or something next to me. I can just imagine them running. I don't know. They
Huh.
seem really friendly.
Very interesting. So yeah, and then also the dragons from the festival that they have, there's kind of an inspiration and another artist that you mentioned to me in a previous conversation. Can you tell us a little bit about that? The Alebrijes.
Yes, the creator of the Alebrijes is Pedro Linares Lopez. A lot of people don't know his name and they should. He's an amazing Mexican artist who created the Alebrijes after he fell into a fever dream when he got really sick. He had a hallucination of these hybrid creatures, so an eagle with a lion's body, a donkey with butterfly wings, and they were following him around in this dream, screaming the word Alebrijes to him. So when he woke up, he felt compelled to go and make all of the creatures that he saw, and he made them out of paper mache. So he started, and then he passed this down to his children, and they've passed it down to their children. And now it's a generational art form, and it's a big part of folk culture in Mexico. And they actually have a parade for the Alebrijes in Mexico City every single year.
Very interesting. It's like like it's like anything else. Like you can sort of, you know, go down the rabbit hole. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much to learn about virtually anything that you come to start to learn about. And I love that you're as much involved in the art history part of it as much as the art. And so I love the background and everything and just the color. It's like when artists, especially visual artists, when they sort of express themselves, it comes out in everything that they do, the clothes that they wear, the jewelry and all that kind of stuff, how they wear their hair and stuff like that. And I just love that. It's that's what I hope that the people that watch the show like get that from that is like just express yourself and sort of have that freedom to express yourself. And I know that's like a big part of you encouraging people to come out and look at the art and find the artist in them, so.
Yeah. And a lot about just letting adults have the ability to be creative again, because I think as we grow up, we're told that we have to be more serious, which then means we can't be creative. And the two don't go together. Your creativity can save you. It's definitely saved me on multiple occasions, like being creative, adding color to your bedroom. It just makes you happier. Like do what makes you happy. We don't have to live in a black and white world. Like add color to your life.
Yeah, definitely. And how there's some psychology at work there about the way that colors sort of play on us, and it's used in advertising and stuff all the time. And I think very few people actually own it in their own homes, where they say, you know what, I really want to calm, this kind of color. We think of what's trendy rather than what the experience of the room is going to be, and so that's fantastic. So tell me, what you have coming up. What's kind of on your plate?
With COVID pretty much shutting all the physical exhibitions down, well, I do it. With COVID shutting down all the physical exhibitions, we're doing a lot of virtual. So I'm involved in a lot of virtual shows in Southern Maryland, St. Mary's, and here in Tacoma Park. So I'm a part of this group called The Artery in Tacoma Park, and we have made a deal with local businesses. If we rent out some of their window space, they let us hang up art. So they get money to rent out their windows. Artists get an opportunity to show to the community. So I've been creating a lot of artwork to put into Tacoma Park's windows. I have some next to me that I'm still working on, but I wanted to share with you.
Sure, absolutely, please.
A lot of my work has to do with reusing things that are going to the garbage can or I want to recycle. So this is a little dragon I'm working on.
Wow.
You can't really tell because all his individual spikes, but he's made out of one of my favorite cereals. And he's a work in progress, so you have to imagine the entire thing being covered, and you get the rest of his legs and tail later today, but he's a lucky charm dragon, so I call him Lucky.
I love it. It's like almost looks like sequins, the way that you've arranged them, like those pillows where you can kind of like run your hand down it and sort of
Yeah,
shifts.
and
Um,
change him back and forth.
that's awesome. It's just, anything. And it's looking at things in a different way, you know what I mean? Like sort of taking things and I love that. And it sounds like what you mentioned, you're sort of upcycling stuff. You're reusing stuff that, or, like with the reindeer you mentioned earlier, you repurpose that as well. So,
Oh my
um,
gosh. And speaking of upcycling, one of my favorite holidays is coming up, Halloween. I love Halloween. I mean, I love Halloween because I get to dress up, but I love that all the fun goodies people leave behind. These are a pair of fairy wings that a little girl was wearing and she threw them away. So, I saw them, I saw a different life for them, and I created this creature. I was inspired by Dios los Muertos, Day of the Dead, and I call him Flutterby because he just reminds me of a little butterfly who kind of like floats in between life and death. I really get inspired by a lot of Mexican culture.
where can people find out more about you? Where, social media, website, any of that kind of stuff?
So my social media is Kelsey_Joyce_art, and you can find me on Facebook as well.
Thanks so much, Kelsey. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you, Albert.
Thanks for watching this episode of The Creative Side, and special thanks to my guest, Kelsey Joyce. And if you or anyone you know has the urge to express your creativity and inspire others to do the same, connect with MMC TV, and maybe you can be the next guest on The Creative Side.